There are still parts of the land on Earth that human beings are yet to explore. We haven't been to them because they're too hard to reach or too dangerous. If we've failed to explore every inch of the land so far, imagine how much of the seabed we've yet to map. Undersea exploration is extremely dangerous, but can also be extremely rewarding. You never quite know what you're going to find there, as you're about to see. There's a special event that happens every few years in the small town of Petoskey, Michigan, USA, and it's an event unlike anything that happens anywhere else in America. Every once in a while, when the conditions are just right, a crowd of 1,000 or so people will gather around a hole in the ice on Lake Michigan and peer through it at the full-sized statue of Jesus Christ on the cross beneath it. It's a very odd thing to hide under the water, and the truth of the matter is, it shouldn't really be there. The 12-foot-tall crucifix was ordered from Italy in 1956 by a Michigan-based Italian-American family as a tribute to a deceased relative. Unfortunately, the sculpture was damaged on its way to the US, and so it was rejected by the family upon arrival. A local diving group bought it from the family to place outside their headquarters, but then decided to submerge it into Little Traverse Bay as a tribute after one of their members passed away in 1962. Most people forgot it was down there until the president of the diving club decided in 1986 that the viewing of the statue could be a fun winter event for the community. Perfect weather conditions are required to make the statue visible, so the event can't be held every year. But the most recent one in 2019 was a big hit. There's only one underwater statue to look at in Petoskey. There are a whole bunch of them to check out in Cancun, Mexico. This is the Museo Subaquatico de Arte, one of only a handful of underwater museums in the world. Aside from being an attraction for scuba divers, the unconventional museum is also an artificial coral reef. The artists and marine biologists who placed the exhibits here hope that they'll help to repair the local ecosystem. We're not sure how the hundreds of tourists are going to help with that. The project is jointly overseen by sculptor Jason DeCaires Taylor and Cancun National Park Director Jaime Gonzalez. Their exhibition began in 2009 with just 3 sculptures. Today, there are more than 400. This part of the seabed was specifically targeted because it's been repeatedly damaged by tropical storms and hurricanes, so the ecosystem is in need of nurture and repair. Judging by all these pictures of people swimming alongside tropical fish, we can only assume that it must be working. Amazingly, the Underwater Museum attracts 750,000 visitors each year. Golf courses are often built in coastal regions because the coast makes for beautiful scenery to enjoy while playing around. Unfortunately, there are a couple of problems with that. The first is that golf balls are not biodegradable. The second is that a lot of golfers are lousy shots. In 2019, teenage diver Alex Weber started fishing golf balls out of the water off the coast of Pebble Beach, Carmel, California, USA. She's retrieved hundreds of lost balls since then, but there are still thousands more down there, probably more than she'll ever be able to fish out. All of the lost balls are a form of pollution, but some of them are more dangerous than others because they slowly begin to release toxic chemicals as they rot. Matt Savoca of Stanford University, a globally renowned expert on plastic waste, has been out with Alex on a couple of dives and estimates that there might be up to 50,000 in the immediate vicinity. So many that in places the seabed appears to be pure white. He says there's no reason why the balls can't be made out of a material that floats, so they'd be easier to see and round up. He might have a point. The Baltic Sea anomaly has had 2 moments in the spotlight thus far. The first was when the anomaly was first detected in 2011. Nobody could explain its existence, but the strange discovery was forgotten almost immediately, and the world's media moved on. More detailed images of it were acquired in early 2020, and this time far more people sat up and took notice. Fans of the Star Wars films were especially likely to give the pictures a second look, because whatever the anomaly might be in reality, It looks almost exactly like Han Solo's Millennium Falcon spaceship. Peter Lindbergh of the Ocean X research team is the person responsible for the discovery, and he's able to provide us with a few more details. He says it's 75 feet long and around 25 feet tall, and sits almost exactly 300 feet below sea level. Intriguingly, Lindbergh is adamant that all the complex electronic equipment that his team uses suffered a sudden and unexplained failure when they tried to get close to it. Scientists insist that it's a natural rock formation and the spaceship-like appearance is just a coincidence, but that wouldn't explain the power outages. Building cities in the coastal regions of the Mediterranean didn't always prove to be a great idea in ancient times. Some of those coastal towns and cities sank. We've all heard of the mythical lost city of Atlantis, but there's no need for us to focus on myths when we have the real-life sunken city of Pavlopetri to check out. The long-lost city was discovered close to the beach of the Greek island of Elophonissos in 1967. It's both the oldest and largest of all the Mediterranean's sunken settlements. Unfortunately, we have no idea what it was called back when it was dry. The name Pavlopetri, meaning Peter's and Paul's, is taken from a nearby islet. Experts believe the town was founded around 5,000 years ago and survived for around 2,000 years before sinking beneath the waves after an earthquake. By that time, it had become a very advanced city for its time, featuring a complex road system, two-story houses with gardens, and even sophisticated water management with pipes and drains. It probably served as a meeting point for the Minoan and Mycenaean civilizations, but sadly, we'll probably never know that for sure. The idea of a river that flows underwater is quite a strange one. After all, how can a river separate itself from the water that surrounds it on the seabed? The answer is down to two things: salinity and sediment. In 2010, a team of researchers studying the Black Sea identified an enormous river running beneath it, 115 feet deep, and leading to waterfalls and rapids that look remarkably similar to those we find on land. If this river was on the land instead of under the sea, it would be the 6th largest in the world. Scientists have been able to chart the river by using a robotic submarine. They observed that the river water is significantly denser than all the water around it because of its high salt content and also because it's picked up so much sediment as it's carved its way into the seabed. In the process, it's created riverbanks and floodplains. The experts say that the salty water comes from the Mediterranean's Bosphorus Strait, flowing into the Black Sea and then separating off because of the Black Sea's significantly lower salt content. It's the first active undersea river ever found, but it won't be the last. A few moments ago, we mentioned Atlantis, and we talked about it as a myth. Maybe we should take that back. After seeing Bimini Road, we have a few questions. Those who believe that the tale of Atlantis is based on a historical truth say that Bimini Road in the Bahamas might be the first piece of the puzzle. This pathway runs across the seabed off the coast of North Bimini Island, starting 18 feet below sea level. The giveaway that the road is human-made is the fact that the rocks are the same size, the same shape, and evenly spaced. That all but eliminates the possibility of them being a natural phenomenon. Unbelievably, the official position of the scientific world is that we should ignore the evidence of our own eyes and accept that they're nothing but a geological phenomenon caused by erosion, and we only see a road because we want to see one. It's true that our eyes can sometimes deceive us, but surely not in this case. We defy anyone to look at these images and not see a road. It's stretched on into the sea for around half a mile, but doesn't seem to lead anywhere. Was Atlantis once at the end of the road? Probably not, but if we accept that it's human-made, it must have had some kind of purpose. The United Kingdom is pretty keen on keeping its distance from the rest of Europe these days, but it was once much better connected, and we don't mean politically. 8,500 years ago, the waters of the North Sea were lower, and the UK was still connected to continental Europe by a landmass known as Doggerland. All of Doggerland is now deep beneath the sea, but marine archaeologists and historians believe that it might have been the heartland of Europe during ancient times, with tens of thousands of people living on it. We don't know about that, but what we can say with certainty is that the people of Doggerland had a shipyard that was very advanced for its era. Evidence of the 8,000-year-old shipyard has been found close to the Isle of Wight, and has even been digitally recreated using cutting-edge technology. The truly mind-blowing thing here is that until now, we've always thought that the first major seafaring civilization appeared around 3,000 years ago. If the people of Doggerland were producing ships on an industrial scale 5,000 years earlier, the entire narrative of European history might need to be reassessed. Neolithic-era humans generally aren't credited with a great deal of intelligence. We think of them as little more than simple hunter-gatherers with only the vaguest comprehension of things like planning, strategy, and organization. We urgently need to revise that assessment of them. Discoveries like the lost town of Atlit Yam are the reason why. This drowned settlement off the coast of Haifa in Israel slipped beneath the waves around 8,300 years ago. The fact that the settlement is now underwater has helped to preserve it, allowing archaeologists to identify individual houses, wells dug for water access, and partitioned graveyards. In other words, the people who lived here understood the concept of town planning. The whole town appears to have been built around a freshwater spring, which was surrounded by a stone circle. The remains of a few Atlit Yam residents are still in their graves, and studying those remains has led to a surprising discovery. 2 of the people buried here had tuberculosis at the time of their death. This is the earliest recorded presence of the illness anywhere in the world. It's possible that a TB outbreak rendered the town lifeless long before the sea came to claim it, but we can't say for sure. Everyone who knows their history has heard of Japan's Pearl Harbor attack on the United States of America. It was the incident that finally forced the USA into active participation in the Second World War. Far fewer people know that the Americans eventually got even for that sneak attack. On February 17, 1944, the US sent 500 aircraft, 4 light carriers, 5 fleet carriers, and several support ships into Truk Lagoon, Micronesia, where Japan kept its imperial fleet. The events of this day are known as Operation Hailstone, and Japan never saw it coming. The imperial fleet was devastated, and most of it is still at the bottom of the lagoon all these years later. 50 ships were sunk, along with more than 200 planes. The lost vessels are now known as the Ghost Fleet of Truk Lagoon, and can be seen easily through the clear blue waters when the weather is fair. The sprawling mass of military hardware is a fascinating attraction for divers, but will soon have to be cleaned up. The decaying hulls of many of the vehicles and vessels are still full of fuel, and if they were to break open underwater, it would be an ecological disaster. Some locations are dressed up in flowery names that don't tell you anything about them. Others tell you everything you need to know in 2 or 3 words. The Great Blue Hole belongs to the second category. The name tells the whole story about this strange natural phenomenon close to Belize City in Belize. It's big, it's blue, and it's a hole in the world. The darker blue shade of the hole's center is down to the fact that it's a massive underwater sinkhole, the largest of its kind on the planet. The hole measures 984 feet in diameter and is 410 feet deep. An island of coral has formed around the edges of the hole, enhancing the visual effect. Legendary explorer Jacques Cousteau, who visited the hole in 1971, discovered that it's a vertical limestone cave, complete with colossal stalactites and stalagmites. While it looks dark and murky from the surface, visibility is said to improve as you dive deeper into the hole, with spectacular rock formations there to reward curious and competent divers. It's still not a great idea to visit unless you're a very highly trained diver, though. Diving into underwater caves is about as dangerous as it gets. Speaking of brave and competent divers, you'd probably need nerves of steel to swim in a narrow gap between two enormous tectonic plates. But you can give it a try if you want. There's only one place in the world you can go for this experience: Silra in Iceland. It's a fissure between the Eurasian and North American continental plates, leaving a gap that allows divers to take a plunge towards the center of the Earth. The fissure is at the bottom of Thingvallavatn Lake and attracts hundreds of adventurous tourists every year. It's said that visibility at the bottom of the lake is as good as 300 feet in every direction, allowing you an excellent view of the lava rock formations along the edges of the rift. The lake that hosts the rift is unique in that no rivers or streams flow into it. Instead, its waters are extruded through the tectonic rock far beneath the surface. That's a slow process. Some scientists believe that every single drop of water in the lake is at least a century old. Despite that, it's entirely safe to drink. You can't quite swim down to the Earth's molten core. But then again, why would you want to? Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and enjoy watching new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!